Ladies and gentlemen, we are now live.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It's January 25th at 7:01 p.m. This is the regular meeting of the Silverton Board of Trustees. I note that tonight we have Director Seitz standing in as acting administrator on behalf of Administrator Ryder. And if we can do a roll call, Kelly, that would be wonderful.
Trustee Barella?
Here.
Trustee Harper?
Here.
Trustee Weigert?
Here.
Trustee Beerma?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Here.
Mayor Furman?
Here. All right. We had a couple revisions to tonight's agenda, I believe. Director Seitz, would you like to propose the revision to 4B? Or would you prefer that I do that?
Well, I'm not sure that we need a revision to 4B. I reached out to Attorney Kosnick and yourself about a half hour ago. You could make that revision. I don't think it's critical.
Okay. Then we will leave that as is unless Attorney Kosnick objects. And then I would also request, unless there's objection, that we move 4C to the first item of new business, since I think that one will include a decent amount of public engagement. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. All right, opening this up to public comment. If you are on Zoom, please click the raise hand button. We'll promote you to speak. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak. I'll also note that tonight, in connection with the consideration to fill the open trustee position, there will be an open Q&A among the candidates and attendees. So if your comment is more directed towards engaging with those candidates in a Q&A style, you may want to wait until that portion of public comment. All right, seeing no hands, we will move along from public comment. Presentations and proclamations, unless Director Seitz, you have anything. I have none on this agenda.
I do not.
All right, so moving right along to new business, the vacant trustee position. So tonight we have our candidates joining us. They're all on here as presenters, and the public will have an opportunity to ask any one of them questions, and we'll limit each of those Q&A periods per individual and per asking individual, so attendee, to 3 minutes. So if anyone who's attending would like to ask a question to any of our candidates, please click the raise hand button now. I see none. In that case, what I had anticipated doing and connected with Attorney Kosnick about is we will now consider a motion from trustees to appoint any of the 5 candidates who have submitted their letters to fill the position. Trustee Barella.
I move to appoint Wayne Barger as the trustee.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second
All
that.
right. Oh,
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
thank you, Trustee Harper. Roll call, Kelly, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
Trustee Harper,
Yes.
Trustee Wager,
No.
Trustee Beerma,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
No.
Mayor Furman.
No. Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Tyler George for the position of trustee.
Do I hear a second?
I can second that.
Thank you. Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
No.
Trustee Harper,
Yes.
Trustee Wager,
Yes.
Trustee Beerma,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Well, congratulations, Tyler George. And thank you to all of the candidates. As we noted last meeting, we really appreciate everyone's willingness to participate. And I think there will be many, many opportunities for engagement going forward. And I would love for all of you to be deeply involved in the community as much as you already are today, and more so going forward. At this time, I believe we have Judge Edwards on, who can swear in our new trustee, Tyler George. Tyler, if you could unmute, and Anthony as well. Sorry, Judge Edwards. Anthony, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Congratulations, Mr. George.
Thank you.
Can you repeat after me?
Yes.
Yes. I state your name.
I, Tyler George,
Do solemnly swear I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Colorado
and the laws of the State of Colorado,
and the laws of the State of Colorado,
and will faithfully perform the duties of the office of trustee
and will faithfully perform the duties of the office of trustee
upon which I am about to enter to the best of my ability.
upon which I am about to enter to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Trustee George. We will have paperwork for you. You can come in tomorrow to sign that documentation, okay?
Thank you, Judge.
You are sworn in.
Thank you very much, Judge Edwards, and welcome to the fray, Trustee George. Attorney Kosnick, I'll defer to you a bit here, but my understanding is that since Trustee George did not receive the packet with the expectation of participating in this meeting, that he can choose to either just watch this meeting or abstain from any votes or decisions, and then kind of dive in for the next one. And then we'll also be able to provide some of the materials that all of the other trustees who were elected in April received in terms of getting up to speed on what the roles and responsibilities are of the trustee.
Yes, I concur with that in the sense that Trustee George can participate in this as a discussion, but should probably recuse himself at this point from actually voting on any of the matters.
Thank you. That said, I would welcome any questions or input in discussion that you would like to participate in this evening.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so moving on to new business 4A, consideration to approve SCS change order number 7. And I'll look to Director Seitz to provide a little context here.
Okay. So most of you are aware that over the course of the past year plus, we've been working with the water plant contractor on substantial change order work that was undertaken to complete work that needed to be done in order to finish the project. It was a substantial amount of work that were site conditions that were unknown by town or the engineer at that time. We're talking about a lot of buried pipe up in the water plant yard, and a few other items that increased the cost of the water plant project. Originally, it was about a $600,000 project, and we got a change order last spring for $270,000. A little over that, actually. I believe it was 272. And I didn't agree with that amount. And Administrator Ryder and I have been going back and forth with the contractor for over 6 months about this bottom line, how much we thought was fair. And we got the price reduced by over $100,000. $170,000 is the check that we're asking you to write. This is open for discussion. However, we believe that the next step after this, and I don't think we could get much more value out of this contractor if this was to go to arbitration. And that would be the next step. A third-party arbitrator would have to be called in to decide if we owed that amount or less or more. And we felt that this was a fair amount for the extra amount of work that was done, especially considering that arbitration could cost us tens of thousands of dollars as well. Administrator Ryder and I were pleased that we could get the contractor to agree to this amount. There are 2 pay applications in your packet. The other one for $28,875 is just retainage from the original contract. So that's nothing that we didn't expect to pay in the first place. That is 5% of the original contract that was retained, and should not factor into this conversation. Are there any questions that I can answer about this at this time?
Trustee Harper.
Trustee Harper.
Yes, sir. Were any of these anticipated?
I anticipated them in my gut,
Mhm.
but in my discussions with the engineer, they said this is how much the project should cost. Should cost roughly $600,000 and change. And I said, well, what about the stuff that we don't know about? And they were kind of like, well, that's not really, you don't really put that stuff into a contract. And they did put it into the contract. There were items, potholing was in the contract, but they ended up potholing for an entire month chasing pipes, where they might have thought they would be potholing for a few days. And a month of, 4 or 5 guys and a couple of pieces of heavy equipment gets expensive. Now, that wasn't the only change order. Also in the tank repairs, there was extra welding and reinforcement that was required on our old tank, that you really wouldn't know unless a diver couldn't tell you how much needed to be done. They wouldn't really know until they sandblasted. So that was one thing. There were a couple of other changes. Unfortunately, I don't have it all in front of me, but the potholing was one, extra tank repairs. There was a slight price increase on one of the pumps that was installed in the pump house. And really, at the end of the day, all this stuff would have to have been done in order to complete the project. So how much could be anticipated? You know, from my time as a contractor, I would have been really careful about this project. But this contractor knew that if a change order was required, they would send us a bill for it, and they did. Unfortunately, their original bill was way too high, and we were able to negotiate a much more reasonable price for the work.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Trustee Barella.
So it's actually a consideration of $98,000 and change that we need to pay, because we have 70 on the new change order and 28,000 that wasn't anticipated. So we need to figure out where $98,000 is going to come out of the budget, or has 28 been allotted and we're only trying to find 170,000?
All of the money, now John and I sat down last week and looked at a budget sheet that he produced, and he was not comfortable settling until he knew we had the money. And we were both prepared to recommend arbitration if we couldn't get them to a goal number. That goal number was 170,000. And we went back and forth several times with the contractor. But I do not have that spreadsheet in front of me. John Ryder has assured me that the money is spoken for in the budget. And what I would suggest is approving this payment based on staff being able to prove that the money is spoken for in the budget.
I like that remedy. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So do we hear a motion to approve SES change order number 7, subject to staff confirming sufficient funds allocated for such a cost in the budget?
I will so move.
I'll second.
Thank you, trustees Wiegert and Harper. Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Wager,
Yes.
trustee Bierma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Recuse.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to new business 4B. This is the one that Director Seitz and I were talking about at the beginning of the meeting. Consideration for mayor to sign completion agreement with SES, and we'd like to request that should this be approved, the motion also include authorization for town administrator to sign any additional related documents. Because I believe there's a couple of ancillary documents that go along with the completion agreement, and we wanted to be very careful to be inclusive on this motion as suggested by Attorney Kosnick.
I can
Director
also
Seitz.
speak to this. Yes, Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to add that we weren't able to get the completion agreement in the packet tonight. However, this agreement was drafted by our attorney and is very favorable for the town of Silverton moving forward should any complications arise with the contractor, which I would not expect. However, Attorney Kosnick drafted the document, and it's a strong document in our favor. And I would also, as staff, recommend that we get this thing wrapped up 100% paid, get the document signed, and move on to the next big thing.
Any questions or discussion?
I guess I'd like to see the document before I make that ruling. I mean, what is the actual content? What do we know? Paul, can you give us better highlights? I'm not necessarily comfortable moving forward unless I read it and made sure, especially with the discussion with the board, that it is beneficial.
Sure, and that's a very fair question. And the additional documents, there's one specifically that we know about, and that's a settlement and release that was drafted by myself on behalf of the town. And it doesn't add any further obligations on behalf of the town. What it's doing is providing a full release, meaning this is a final payment and settlement of the alleged payments that SCS feels is due. So they can't come back after this payment and make any further claims against the town. It's a one-way document in the sense that only SCS is providing the release. The town is not providing any release to SCS. So if something comes up with this project and there's some errors that are discovered in the future, the town still has remedies against SCS. So it's a kind of a one-way document. It also provides an indemnification, meaning by SCS, meaning that if they have some kind of subcontractors that are out there that haven't been paid or something, they can't, if they come to the town and say, hey, we haven't been paid for this, we now have an agreement to point back and say, no, this is the responsibility of SCS to take care of any, subcontractor issues. And then the only further commitment that is being made by the town in the document is a payment that is within 35 days. So there's 35 days to pay under this agreement. So, again, this one could be contingent on determination that, proof is provided to the board that this money is in the budget and has been budgeted for in this current year.
Is there any downside or risk if we were to hold on approving the signature on these documents until the following meeting so that it could be included in the packet?
So I could say I don't see any risk by holding off on it. I don't know if it's a timing issue that John Seitz wants to talk to, but as far as this is something that SCS has already signed, and it can't wait till the next meeting is from I think a legal perspective, but John might have more input on that.
We're not restricted by any timing issues right now with grants or loans. I would just prefer to see the entire thing be wrapped up as soon as possible. However, I do respect the concerns of the trustees, and I would support your decision to hold off on this new business until you see the documentation.
So it seems like the prudent thing to do would be to table this until the following meeting so that everyone has an opportunity to review.
Well, and then that gives staff time to make sure that we do have the $198,000 in the budget, so that way we're not flying blind.
And just to reiterate, you are not concerned of SCS backing out of this settlement based on a 2-week delay.
Yeah, and so I could speak to the fact that it's a good thing they've already signed this. So, we have a signed document right now. So they can't necessarily back out of it at this point.
Okay. Any objection to tabling this to the next meeting? All right. Thank you. Moving along to consent agenda. Any questions related to the items in the consent agenda before we consider a motion to approve the consent agenda items? Trustee Brella?
Let me get my packet back out. We had quite a few checks and I haven't seen them yet. It gave me a little pause. Where are they? Here we go. confused on the multitude of waste management for very small, insignificant numbers. What was going on there?
Director Seitz, is that something you or Clerk Freeze are able to speak to?
I can't comment on that. I'd have to look into it, but the clerk may have something to add.
It's just a few of the accounts that we have open still right now. Not all of them are being asked to be paid for right now. We just have like Memorial Park, the courthouse, town hall, the hospital, the library, and Kendall, and that's all they're asking for payment right now.
Okay. And then the next set was, what does that say? CLIC cooperative purchase. 1,600, 400.
Quick is with the library.
I just Googled it and it's the Colorado Library Consortium.
Yeah, this is their, she gets automation like audio files for library books and stuff, along with also their membership.
Yep. Well, that I knew. I guess I've never seen it done as what's known as a cooperative purchase before. I always thought it was part of collection. So maybe if that's the way it translates to the budget. Okay. And then VF Outdoor LLC.
I don't know if Todd Bove is on, but I have a hunch that that probably has something to do with Kendall.
I don't see Todd as an attendee.
Oh, it's I'm getting an update. That is equipment for our rental fleet at Kendall, snowboards and boots.
So this was a portion that didn't come in last year then?
You said vans, right? What was
Sorry?
the check?
Oh,
It's snowboard equipment, Kelly.
Yes. And I was told to hold off on that till this year to pay for it because it was in this budget, not last year's budget.
okay, but that was what we had ordered. And then we just held off on it. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Trustee Uyghur?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Thank you. I just had a quick question for Attorney Kosnick, actually. To what extent are typos relevant in minutes? Is that something we care to correct, or is that not material?
I would say it's not material unless it somehow significantly changes the sentence or the meaning of it.
Okay, there were just a couple of bullets that I didn't follow because of typos. Nothing super serious, but for example, one says, Mayor Furman said the 3 types of architectures are overlay district, architectural district, or a moratorium. And I'm guessing that the word architectures was not intentional.
I have another one there. It's a typo, but it does change the meaning. Julian Roberts is trained in nonviolent communication, I'm thinking, and in not violent communication.
Trustee Uyghur?
May the motion reflect the concerns of Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Continue with the second.
Thank you. Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Weigert,
Yes.
trustee Grandma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Hughes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. All right, thank you. Moving along to staff reports.
I spoke with the staff today just to make sure that we were covering everything that was important to them. I only had one comment from Lisa Branner. She wanted to update the board on the status of the RP&P land over at Kendall, the 93 acres currently under the jurisdiction of the BLM, that after almost 20 years, it should be transferred into town possession, use, and care during the year 2021. They've got a few cleanup items that they would like to do around Lackawanna that should improve the land for our use for recreation and public purposes. And that was the only one. I checked with all the senior staff, the department heads, and the big one for me was in new business tonight. So does anyone have any questions about the reports as submitted? Mayor?
I was just curious, typically we would also have one from Inspector McDougall. I didn't see his in there. That may have just been a miss in the PDF. Kelly?
He only does it once a month.
Copy that. All right, thank you. And also, so we also did not receive a staff report from Administrator Ryder.
We did not, correct, Clerk Freeze?
It was partially in there.
No.
Why is it partially filled out?
That's from me. That's what I have done and Nate has done.
Okay, then maybe we need to have those separated because it was under his heading.
His and mine have always been together. I took out everything that he had in there from a meeting ago.
I agree that that's a little confusing. Maybe we can look at a way to differentiate going forward without making more work for you guys. Okay, it sounds like that's it on staff reports unless there's any other questions or comments. So moving on to committee reports. I have not had a committee meeting since the last trustee meeting, so I have nothing to report. Trustee Weigert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did have a planning commission meeting on last Tuesday, the 19th, and we actually had some issues that we're gonna forward to the Board of Adjustments. So you guys will have some work coming up here soon. But the one thing we did talk about was a proposed duplex in the ED zone. And that spurned a bit of a concern that duplex are not a use by right in the ED zone. And we had concern from the Planning Commission that maybe that should be included within the town code. So we would like to see that upcoming on an agenda, some sort of a discussion where we can talk about whether that should be a use by right or a use subject to review in the ED zone. But we did approve the proposed Grasso duplex in the South ED zone, and see more construction going up there. recommend approval to the town board.
Thank you, Trustee Wiegert. Trustee Brella?
So Trustee Wiegert, are you saying that it's just multifamily that is not included in use by right that needs to be? Or is it specifically something calling out a duplex?
Specifically for the ED zone, it's multifamily or duplex. Yeah, that's a concern. There, it's a use subject to review as it's written in the code. And Planning Commission thinks that we can streamline our development by making that a use by right.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
I also didn't have any committee meetings, but I was just going to give an update that the Kendall Committee will start meeting again in February on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays, I think. I'll let you know for sure when those meetings are noticed, but it's usually the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays of the month.
Thank you. Any other committee updates? Or any committee updates from staff? Something I think I realized going into this, we actually have a few committees that staff serve on that trustees do not. So I think in future meetings, I'll be more cognizant of that and make sure to include staff reports there too. All right, it sounds like that's it for committee reports. Moving on to trustee reports. My only report is I had an awesome time at Kendall. I was invited to coach the kids ski team last week, and that was just super fun and exciting to see the kids getting out there. It was just, Mayor Pro Tem, correct me if I'm wrong on the ages, but it was just the younger kids, like 1st through 5th, is that right? 1st through 3rd, and they just were awesome. So thank you to the community and to this board for keeping Kendall operating, because that was just super cool.
Yeah, I was gonna add on to that too, Mayor, if you're good.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a tricky start to the season just because we've had 4th and 5th graders kind of in and out of school. So that's just left us on Fridays with the younger kids, which has actually been a pretty relaxing start for them, I think. And Kendall's been so low key and awesome that that's worked really well. And then I also wanted to announce that just yesterday, I'm going to have because we can't really travel this year to ski races, I wanted to host a race series at Kendall with that's open to the community. So we can have some kind of fun competition happen over there. And Jim and Becky approved that yesterday with, the usual COVID conditions of mask wearing and social distancing and all of the regular stuff at Kendall, but that'll happen in February and March. It'll be a series of 4 races with teams of 5, and those teams will be mixed with some kids from school and community members who want to participate. And then we'll have kind of a series winner of the team winner at the end in around mid-March. So look for that announcement in the paper, but anyone else who's listening or likes skiing, or even if you don't, it's just going to be a super friendly way to hang out and participate.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Barney. Any other trustee reports this evening? All right. I'm not aware of any continued business, and none's on the agenda. Before we move to public comment, I would like to note that trustees received an email today from Attorney Kosnick. And Attorney Kosnick, along with staff, have recommended the board to enter executive session this evening for the purposes of discussing personal matters regarding town administrator's duties and receiving legal advice. So before we go to public comment, I just wanted to put that on our radar, but Our next item will be public comment, after which I will entertain such a motion to enter executive session. So now we will open this up to public comment. If anyone would like to speak, please click the raise hand button and we will promote you to speak. And I would just ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. All right, I see a hand from Mr. Archuleta. Mr. Archuleta, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your time tonight. I would just like to bring up concerns of the extra cost at the water plant and the 198,000 to the 220,000 on the change orders. I just believe that you have an engineering firm that's been hired that the community's paying for, that when you end up at 70% over the original cost, you're 418,000 over that. The engineering firm or whoever's involved, there should be more accountability for what's going on. To say that you could go 70% over budget to reach your goal is unacceptable. I think if the engineering firm can't produce the quality that the community is looking for, the town's looking for, then I think there should be time taken to either look for another engineering firm or figure out what's happened. I do understand totally that there's potholing, there's all kinds of things, but when you're taking on a job like that to end up at 70% of the original cost, it shouldn't be acceptable to the town. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief Archuleta. Any other public comments this evening? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters regarding the town administrator's duties and receiving legal advice pursuant to CRS section 24-6-4024 FI and 24-6-4024 B.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I can second.
Thank you. I suppose we'll roll call so that I don't have to just, or we could do hands. All in favor? All right. Unanimous minus Trustee George, who's recusing, I assume. So for the public, what we will do now is we will ask everyone to leave the meeting so that we can enter executive session. This will be a closed meeting to discuss only the items noted in the motion. Following the executive session, we will reopen this meeting to the public, but I note that you may not want to stick around for that because the only thing we typically do once reopening the meeting is adjourn. So at this time, Nate, I would ask that you end the YouTube streaming and we will take a 5-minute break as we let attendees leave the meeting. It's 7:45, so we'll come back on at 7:50. And if we do have any straggler attendees, we'll all get kicked out of the meeting during this 5-minute break and we'll just have to log back in. So I'll see you guys all at 7:50.
Live stream is ending.